Hello everyone, it is Leon here from Official PlayStation Magazine and
Phil,
who has been out to Bungie to see the mysterious Destiny, which has been teased for quite a long time, and not a lot more is known about it now. Actually, now that they've revealed it.
Now this is it. I mean, I've been struggling to understand since I've been back why I was so excited about it, and that's not a bad thing. It's just that I was shown so many intangibles and made so many promises, and it's all very exciting. And the thing is it's not really the promises that were made as who's making the promises. It's Bungie, one of the most prestigious game developers in the world, with funding from Activision, who have
biggest publishers in the world.
Yeah, so if anyone's going to deliver on these promises, it's going to be a team like Bungie with that sort of partnership. So it is very exciting. Yeah. It's just that there's not a whole lot of concrete information about how it's going to play.
They've been describing it as a kind of sort of co-op social experience. The sizzle kind of trailer they've been showing off has shown like stuff networking on phones, like social networking. The idea that it's a kind of a co-op persistent world that you drop into. They sort of there's an MMO quality to it, but they haven't really called it an MMO as such. It's this persistent free roaming world that you sort of share socially with your mates and you drop into and have adventures in, I guess. Yeah,
and I think they're particularly careful avoiding using the word MMO because of the kind of business model that brings. I mean, they've explicitly said they're not planning on any subscription fee for Destiny. It's a box copy console game, and it's also a PS3 game. We'll wait and see whether it's exclusive. Not exclusive, but only this generation, and not obviously in due time, next gen as well.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the game, what it's about. We know that it's set way in the future. Mankind's been all but decimated by unclarified aliens, and the only thing that saved us from extinction is this massive ship we can see here called the Traveller, which basically has just sort of landed on Earth, and people have built a city underneath it, and whatever this thing is protecting us.
Yeah. So this is symbolic of the last stand that humanity and the Traveller made against these unknown forces that have obliterated humanity back in a time when the human race was all over the place. They were on the moon, they'd civilized that, they'd civilized Mars. Now all these places are lying in ruins, and this is actually the only livable, safe city in the solar system underneath this gigantic and mysterious sphere. And not much else is known about the Traveller, other than every player is a guardian in this city, and every guardian has a little bit of the Traveller's powers, which facilitates what sounds a little bit like magic. So there's like a warlock class, which I think we'll see later on. Things like that. So there are very strong RPG elements aside from the kind of shared persistent world MMO things. Some of the lore is very RPG like as well.
Here we can see, I'm guessing this is potentially the moon, possibly, but I'm guessing this is one of the ruined kind of areas. Let me just check my notes. This image is simply called Ocean of Storms. So whether that's the name of the location or maybe sort of a mission that's set there. But Mankind had taken over space. We were in the game had spread widely and now have been reduced just back to the city we saw. The trailer hints that we are now sort of reaching back out into space, and we're starting to stretch out, and that's where the game starts, where we're pushing back against the boundaries and discovering sort of the things that are outside our protected city. Now
this is actually an enemy base, I know that much. So
this is the Hellmouth.
And this is where, from what I'm led to believe, this is where the more set piece like play is going to come from. I mean, Bungie were very keen to sort of impress upon us that much of the play will be emergent. It will be you deciding to go to a particular location and either carrying out a raid there with multiple players, or doing a co-op mission, or going alone. And a lot of that is just deciding, I'm going to go here. These areas, the enemy bases, are where it's going to feel a lot more like a traditional shooter, where there's going to be some kind of, the boundaries are going to narrow a bit, and you're going to be led along a path.
Okay. I guess, this could be on Earth. We don't know.
Yeah, I guess it could. Depends how bad the place got destroyed.
Okay, this is the garden, which is a slightly nicer kind of looking zone. I'm guessing the fact that the place has been destroyed by aliens and it's been sort of hundreds of years, they've got plenty of sort of room to play with locations, and I guess they want varied locations if it is going to be a persistent world. They're talking about like 10 years of play. They're talking about this being an experience that lasts for 10 years.
Yeah, so the contract actually between Bungie and Activision was leaked just before this reveal, and it stipulated that the deal goes on for 10 years and quite a few games. The exact number escapes me. So they have to really create a world that's durable enough to sustain 4 or 5 excursions into it, and I think it needs to be hopeful as well. And they were also keen to impress that, and that areas like the garden, it's kind of like a backhanded into games like Fallout 3, which a fantastic game, but after a while, the 10th time that you touch a caravan full of skeletons, it kind of weighs heavy on your soul. It's not a pleasant place to be.
I'm guessing this is the Cassini Derelict, it's called. See the rings around
Saturn? We need to go to science class. I think it's Saturn.
But they're showing enough kind of to suggest that, while mankind is restrained to sort of the city under the planet, we're going to be getting into space, maybe seeing other areas. They obviously wouldn't be concepting places like deep space derelicts and what looks like kind of shattered moon bases unless we were going to go there. So
yeah, and I mean you've got your own individual spacecraft as well, which can be earned either through competitive multiplayer or through individual missions. Whether there's going to be space combat or whether you move between places like Mass Effect,
just like a hub sort of thing.
Yeah, that remains to be seen. They're elusive about that, but I would say of a game this scope, it would seem, I would edge towards there being a fully fledged kind of space exploration, manning a vehicle. Because, it's Bungie. They love to give you vehicles to play around with.
Yeah.
It seems that, the most fun, which seems to be where they're coming from in designing this game. And they've got the time and the budget to put the most fun thing across.
And if they are talking about being sort of free roaming, sort of open world, then you need to be able to get around. Free roaming worlds don't really work on foot.
No, exactly. It seems a little bit reductive, but the closest example from what we've been told in games at the moment, it's probably Borderlands 2. It's a kind of a persistent co-op experience. It's certainly not an MMO, but it's a large world with drop-in people who can kind of make or break your game for you. And imagine in Borderlands 2 just clicking on a location instead of hopping in a buggy together or hopping in each other's buggies or constantly rolling each other in buggies. So I think the drivable vehicles makes a lot of sense.
We will see as a vehicle in a moment. We'll see called a Pike. This weirdly, this is probably one of my favourite sort of shots. We can see
mine too.
This whatever this is. I don't know whether we're inside the Traveller or not even sure what that is. It's not kind of traditional physics, let's say. We can see also at the bottom down here. These are Vex. There's a variety of aliens that as we are now in the story, the mankind is starting to kind of push outside of the city. We're discovering that lots of other things have moved in while we're away, and this particular race is called Vex.
I think these are time-travelling aliens, if I'm not mistaken. So whether they can kind of shift around in time and space, I don't know. Whether they just
that could be their spaceship for all we know.
Yeah, it looks very impressive though. I'd love to see that in game. We weren't shown a whole lot of in-engine stuff, which was very frustrating, and they were kind of gloating that while we were on lunch, while we were at Bungie HQ, they were playing the game. So it's playable, it's at that sort of level of
weirdly
code.
The in-game stuff I saw, there was a lot of kind of like robot kind of soldiers patrolling patrolling balconies and stuff. It oddly reminded me a bit of what was the Star Wars RPG that
the Obsidian ones, the Knights of the Old Republic.
It oddly reminded me a bit of that, and it may have just been because they had tall kind of robot kind of C-3PO style soldier things wandering around.
I think the character design is very Obsidian actually. To be honest, it's one of the areas that I'm less enthused about. It does look a little bit generic, and it's probably to do with they're really going for a broad appeal, and they don't want to create a very too specific a sci-fi world.
It's odd, isn't it? 'Cause you look at a picture like this, and you've got this incredible sort of structure, whatever it is, this weird like MCS thing, and then you've got these sort of almost kind of 70s tinge. The plants. Let's go in a bit. So the plants and even the sort of the soldiers have a weird 70s pulp sci-fi novel cover to them.
Absolutely.
And yet when you look at some of the other stuff, there is a slight, like you say, it is a little bit kind of generic. Like this sniper guy here could be the sniper out of Killzone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And these sort of creatures in the background. That big guy, this big sort of lumbering guy here could be from anything.
Yeah, he could be from any shooter, and it's a weird contrast of as you say, slightly generic characters and enemies in this very intriguing, interesting fully fledged sci-fi world
Yeah.
that does have a character of its own. So, you know, we'll see how the two progress. Maybe we'll see a bit more character from.
Yeah, I mean, this is called the Dark Patrol. So obviously, there's like some kind of enemy force. Obviously one of the other factions. I'm guessing that all these other alien species that are sort of scattered out there will be kind of factions. Maybe some won't all be automatic enemies. But well, you know, that's something I'll have to reveal later on. Now, this is the Exclusion Zone, so I'm guessing this is sort of, you know, once you get outside the city, this is, you know, where it starts to get a bit
this
nasty.
looks Martian, right? I mean, there's a lot of red earth around there, and the banner there is, I guess that's the humans, you know, the Guardians flag. Now, what really interests me is that, you know, they talk a lot about it being a shared and persistent world, and what that says to me is that there's an ecosystem, and that it's possible to permanently take territories.
Right.
As in, you know, some proper MMOs. I mean, I'm not being disparaging by not calling it a proper MMO. That's their own positioning, but that's what really interests me about this game. And they're, again, elusive about this. It's very early. They don't really want to give away many details.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's got to be what they mean, right? Is that there's got to be an ecosystem. You've got to be able to affect the populations of various enemy breeds, not to the extent that you can make them extinct, because the whole universe has to last 10 years, but you've got to be able to collectively have an impact on this solar system.
With that use of the word persistent, and obviously they only ever say that when like that's things like Dust 514, you know, that's the idea that the effects that you can impose on the world, you know, will last. It won't just be, you know, you go, like say, go off on a mission, kill 5 magic space rats, and those magic space rats will always be there to be killed. There will have to be some kind of persistent you know, implications of whatever your acts are. Now these are the Fallen. These are another one of the alien kind of sort of casts out there. They look a bit kind of, they're a bit more techie than some of the other ones we've seen.
It's a bit less generic as well. I like these guys.
There's a little kind of sand people kind of vibe to them a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost impossible not to see a little bit of Star Wars in there. But again, you know, that's what the kind of entry-level sci-fi fan, I guess, is going to be interested by. And we were talking about vehicles, obviously, that whatever that kind of walker tank thing is. It's like the first bit of a fly, like a fly's head,
like robot
with a trunk.
Flea. But I mean, that looks like a potential kind of vehicle. Obviously, with a bit of weaponry there. This is another shot of, this is just called Fire Team. So we were talking about the classes. So I'm guessing that guy on the right there is our kind of warlock class.
Yeah, exactly. That's the interesting bit about this picture, is I guess he's some kind of gesture that suggests like he's got a fireball. One of the developers, I think it's Joe Staten or Staten, the story lead, was talking about how the warlock class works, and it's the most American game developer thing ever. He said something about like some people call it magic. All I know is that when I attack with my powers, it's like hitting someone in the face with a piece of the sun. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's what the warlock powers are going to be like, apparently.
Okay, so sun in the face.
Sun in the face. It's a powerful move.
The other classes been revealed so far are, so we've got the warlock, the titan, and the hunter. I'm going to guess here that the titan is the one on the far left, looking all sort of
Titanic,
heavy soldier kind of thing, and then we've got the hunter in the middle, looking kind of snipery, sort of rogue sort of thing.
And then there's the warlock.
And then the warlock again, and this other kind of alien sort of class here that I haven't got a name at the moment, but they look the most sort of feral of what we've seen so far.
Yeah, the interesting thing with the aliens, the enemy design as well, is this like really exciting hodgepodge of mythology. So we've seen kind of zombie aliens, we've seen like space pirates, there's time traveling robots, there's this kind of like, it doesn't all have to make sense, it just all has to exist in this larger universe, and it's like a kind of Peter Pan sci-fi universe, which I think I'm totally on board with. It doesn't all have to be completely coherent.
Oh, and here are a better look at the classes. So as I say, these so it's Titan, Warlock and Hunter.
So we've got a huntress on the left hand side there.
And I'm guessing a Warlock in the middle, and the Titan at the end. Looks like the Warlock's got like a little
it's got a little following drone.
Little probe thing there. I wonder if that would be one of his powers. You know, he can send out little probes. So forth. There's been talk that there was a fourth class hinted at, possibly a Vanguard. It's unclear whether there's another class to be revealed, or whether the Vanguard was something that was rolled into the Titan.
Well, I think the Vanguard is the Vanguard plate, which is his armor.
So there's our Titan.
So I'm not sure if the Vanguard is a class on its own. The interesting thing about Bungie is that they hate faces You always struggle to find a face in a Bungie game, which isn't a criticism, but it's something very very characteristic to them.
I think it helps you pretend it's you, doesn't it? You can if the character hasn't got a face, it's easier for you to identify with it as you.
I don't know whether this suggests that also you can only be a human, or whether again they've bigged up the character customization. This does appear that you can only be a human, and that the customization comes in the form of your weapons and armor and your ship.
Yeah, well, the story has focused heavily on the idea that it's, mankind is trying to has almost been pushed to extinction. You are part of these guardians. You are pushing out and trying to you are the last line between the end of mankind, or the future of it. So I'm guessing, you will be playing as a human.
It makes sense.
Now this is the Pike. This is one of the vehicles we were talking about earlier. Obviously, it's got a lot in common with sort of jet bike. What was the thing in Halo?
Well, we can be forgiven for not knowing the names of Halo bikes, I guess. But
Banshee, was it? I can't remember now.
Or Banshee was the fighter plane, the purple plane thing.
But so jet bike. I'm guessing we'll be using this to sort of get around. Whether or not there'll be different kinds of mounts, essentially, because if you're playing with a bunch of mates, everyone's going to need to keep up.
I'm sure
there's a back seat on there, so we can take some friends with you.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing is built absolutely from the ground up to be co-op, so I'm sure every vehicle that's available you will be able to take a buddy along, and I think you'll find it hard to actually find any time to yourself in the game.
Yeah. And so our last image, this is the Vex we were talking about earlier. So they initially look sort of humanish, but then when you sort of get a bit closer, you realise there could be anything in there, really.
They're kind of fabulous, aren't they? They're like a gold lame with a massive fan on their head.
It's like there's a touch kind of like Vegas Showgirl almost, that kind of thing on the top.
Yeah, there's something equally threatening and seductive about those guys.
And
these are the time traveling guys, I think.
Yeah, and they're clearly they do Lava World by the looks of it.
Yeah, they're not fussed by that.
So do we know? So do we just know they're time travelers? We don't really know.
We don't really know how they use that time traveling power yet, but presumably to shoot you.
Clearly, in the future, whatever sort of alien species and power and origin you have, you basically like shooting people, and you conveniently have guns that you use hands with. Yeah. So that I guess we can pick them up and use them.
These are the laws. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the end of the images. And then, have you got anything else you want to add?
It's interesting that it's definitely a PS3 release. They were absolutely adamant about that. I mean, you'd be mad not to think that with a 10-year contract with Activision that this is also going to be a simultaneous next-gen release as well, with cross-platform servers so that we can play platform agnostic with this giant community that all connects together. Hasn't been confirmed for PC yet, but you'd assume that's a server-side thing. It hasn't been confirmed for this year. So it's not in 2013's guidance, according to the CEO of Activision, Eric Hirschberg. So that's, again, very odd that it's PS3 and not 2013. So we'll wait and see there. I don't know whether that's just kind of a lawyer talk.
Well, they've been teasing it for years, haven't they? I mean, obviously, they're most famous for Halo. There were Destiny teasers in ODST. That's a good few years ago.
It's been in production, or at least pre-production, since 2009. So I've had a long time to create this world, and I think that's the most important thing of a game. It's really nice when you see a developer that actually spends so long on a world before you even it's the same with BioShock Infinite. They spent so long creating Columbia and making it fascinating. That the battle was half won before they even started messing around with level design and everything like that. So I'm very much on board with this, taking a very long time to create a world and then make the game around it approach. And
from the sort of the breadth that they're sort of promising in terms of the whole social aspect, they clearly need the world to be very fully kind of fleshed out and very well realised to make that sort of satisfying. Otherwise you're just looking at pictures on your phone and having a new way of texting your mates.
Exactly. This is the original point again, is that if any other developer, there are games in production, you can talk about Dust 514, you can talk about Defiance, that are trying a similar thing. And if they promised, you can explore the solar system, the whole thing is going to be seamlessly co-op, competitive, party play, solo play in one experience, you would think, well, okay, it's going to be broken on some quite profound level. If it's Bungie doing it with Activision, then you believe them, and you believe that the world is going to be fascinating. You believe, even though we haven't seen anything of level design yet, or anything beyond concept art of weapons, you know that the weapons are going to feel incredibly satisfying to shoot. You know that they're going to do something along the lines of the 2-weapon thing in Halo that was so revolutionary, the recharging health, the recharging shields. You know, these are the guys that, you know, defined the parameters of console shooters, so it's fantastically exciting that they're doing something on PS3. And, you know, unfortunately, we just have to take their word for it for now and look at the pretty concept arts.
Cool, lovely. All right, thank you very much. Leave some comments, guys, and we shall see you later.
Bye.
Yeah.